Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep on a fruit.
A fruit.
Yeah, but not just any fruit. We're heading to Southeast Asia for this one. To the land of, well, think bustling Thai markets, the kind with sunlight streaming through those colorful fabrics, and all those amazing smells, the spices and the food.
Ah, I can practically smell it now.
Right. So picture this. Amidst all that sensory overload, you see her, the queen of fruits. Deep purple, almost otherworldly.
The mangosteen, it's more than just a pretty face though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Way more. That's why we're doing a deep dive. The Mangosteen story, it's got everything. Ancient healing practices, colonial drama, and even some cutting-edge science.
Sounds like our kind of deep dive. So spill the tea. What made this fruit royalty?
Well, for centuries, the mangosteen's been this revered symbol, particularly in Southeast Asia. Think Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine.
Ah, so they saw it as a way to restore balance, harmony in the body.
Exactly. They used it for so many things. Fevers, skin problems, you name it. The belief was that it could tame inflammation and bring you back to, well, feeling good.
Makes sense. And wouldn't you know it, modern science is kind of backing that up.
Oh, really? How so?
So you've got this thick rind on the mangosteen, and inside there's this treasure trove of bioactive compounds, xanthones they're called.
Xanthones. Sounds powerful.
They are. Research suggests they've got this amazing antioxidant power, anti-inflammatory too, and get this, there are even some hints they might help fight cancer. One xanthone in particular, alpha-mangosteen, that's the one getting scientists really buzzing.
Anti-cancer. Okay, I'm officially intrigued. What's so special about this alpha-mangosteen then?
Well, studies show it can actually trigger something called apoptosis, basically programmed cell death. But here's the kicker. It seems to target specifically cancer cells. In some studies, healthy cells were left untouched.
Wow, that's like a microscopic smart bomb or something, taking out the bad guys and leaving the good guys alone.
That's one way to put it. Definitely a super exciting area of research. There's a hitch, though.
Uh-oh. What's the catch?
Bioavailability. It's a mouthful, but basically it's about how well our bodies can actually absorb and use these xanthones. Just munching on a mangosteen, it might not cut it.
So how do we unlock the full potential then?
Scientists are working on it. They're looking at all sorts of cool delivery systems, liposomes, nanoparticles, stuff like that. Think of them as tiny little vehicles carrying those xanthones straight to where they're needed.
Okay, so we're taking ancient wisdom and merging it with the latest tech. Very cool. But before we get ahead of ourselves, you mentioned something earlier about colonial intrigue. What's the mangosteen's role in all that?
Ah, right. So as word spread about this queen of fruits, its taste, its supposed healing powers, well, the Europeans took notice. Big time.
I bet they did. Something that exotic, I can see it becoming a status symbol.
Totally. They craved that sweetness and, of course, saw dollar signs, plantations, all that. Figured they could grow it in their tropical colonies.
So the mangosteen was a coveted treasure, indulgence and potential wealth, all wrapped up in one.
Precisely. Except there was a problem. Mangosteens. They're picky, really picky. Turns out they hated being grown outside their native habitat.
So the queen refused to be tamed.
Pretty much. Those Europeans, they just couldn't crack the code. Tropical heat, the right humidity, specific soil conditions, the mangosteen demanded it all, and they failed time and again. Funny thing is, Southeast Asian farmers, they had no problem growing it.
Generations of knowledge, I'm guessing.
Exactly. They understood the mangosteen, knew its rhythms, its needs. Respect for nature, that's what allowed the queen to flourish under their care. Something the Europeans, with all their ambitions, just missed.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive is already exceeding expectations. Ancient healing, colonial power struggles, scientific breakthroughs, all because of a fruit. Can't wait to see what else we uncover.
You know, it really makes you think. The mangosteen's journey, it's like a reflection of our own, isn't it? I mean, we're always searching for ways to stay healthy, live longer, fight off disease. From those ancient healers to today's labs, it's a constant quest.
And the mangosteen, with all its secrets, it's like a guide,
Yeah.
a link between those worlds. But it's more than just molecules and test tubes, right? It's about people, their stories.
Absolutely. Take, for example, there was this young woman in Malaysia. Had trouble controlling her blood sugar. Tried all the usual things, but nothing really worked.
Sounds familiar. A lot of folks struggling with that.
Right. So she starts incorporating mangosteen into her diet. And guess what? Her blood sugar control, it improves dramatically.
No way. That's incredible. So it's not just theory. People are actually seeing results.
Exactly. And her story, it points to something researchers are really digging into now. The mangosteen's impact on metabolic health. Things like diabetes, obesity, all that.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How does it work? I mean, how can a fruit help with all that?
Remember those xanthones, those powerful compounds? Well, turns out they can activate this pathway in our cells. AMPK, it's called. Kind of like a master switch for energy regulation.
I'm following. So, activating AMPK, that helps with blood sugar control.
Bingo. It can boost something called insulin sensitivity, which is like key for managing blood sugar levels.
So, instead of just masking the symptoms, it's tackling the root cause. That's pretty amazing.
Right. But there's more. The mangosteen might also be doing good work in another area, the gut microbiome.
Hold on, the gut microbiome, what does that have to do with anything?
Oh, it's more important than we ever thought. Trillions of bacteria living in our gut, like this whole ecosystem down there, affects everything from digestion to immunity. And guess what? Our metabolism, too.
So, a healthy gut equals a healthy metabolism. I'm starting to see the connection.
Exactly. And certain things in the mangosteen, like polyphenols and those trusty xanthones, they act as prebiotics. Basically, they feed the good bacteria in our gut, help create a balanced microbiome.
It's mind-blowing. A simple fruit shaping this whole inner world. Nature's pretty amazing, huh?
It really is. Now, we still need more research, big clinical trials, all that, to really nail down the specifics, but the early signs are promising.
Right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to get excited about the possibilities. Speaking of possibilities, we talked about the mangosteen going global, becoming popular worldwide. But are there any ethical concerns with that? I mean, this fruit has such a deep connection to Southeast Asia.
That's a great point. As demand grows, we got to make sure everyone benefits, especially those farmers who've been tending to these trees for generations. Fair trade practices, that's essential. Make sure they're getting a fair price for their work, their knowledge.
Right? It can't just be about profits for big companies. The benefits need to reach those who've nurtured this fruit for so long.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the money. It's about respecting their culture, their heritage. The mangosteen's a part of that. It can't just be seen as a commodity.
Right? Honoring the story, the people, the land, everything that's made this fruit what it is. But let's not forget the science. You mentioned earlier about researchers looking at mangosteen for modern medicine. What kind of diseases are they focusing on?
Well, there's a lot going on, from cancer to inflammatory diseases, even fighting drug-resistant bacteria. It's a wide range.
Okay, let's start with cancer. We talked about that alpha mangosteen, how it can trigger those cancer cells to self-destruct. What's the latest on that?
Well, a lot of the research is looking at whether it could be used alongside conventional treatments, chemo, radiation, that sort of thing.
So not replacing them, but maybe making them work better.
Exactly. The thinking is that mangosteen compounds, they might make those cancer cells more vulnerable to the treatments. And that could mean lower doses, maybe fewer side effects too.
Now, that would be huge for patients.
Mm.
What about those inflammatory diseases you mentioned? Any promising leads there?
Oh yeah, tons of research happening on that front. I mean, we know mangosteen's got those powerful anti-inflammatory properties. So scientists are looking at its effects on all sorts of conditions: rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
It's kind of crazy how inflammation seems to be at the root of so many chronic illnesses.
It really is. And the fact that mangosteen can actually target those inflammatory pathways, like right down at the cellular level, that's what makes it so exciting.
You also mentioned something about antimicrobial resistance earlier. That's a pretty scary problem, with all these superbugs popping up. Can mangosteen really help with that?
It's still early days, but some of the compounds in mangosteen, they've shown some real promise. They're active against different kinds of bacteria, even some that are resistant to our usual antibiotics.
So maybe it could make those antibiotics work better, or even become a new kind of treatment altogether.
That's the hope. Researchers are definitely looking into both of those possibilities.
It's pretty incredible to think that this one fruit from those Southeast Asian forests could have such a huge impact on global health.
Right. It really highlights the power of nature, doesn't it? But we got to be realistic, too. The research is still in the early phases. We need those large-scale clinical trials, to really confirm these findings and figure out the right doses, how best to use it, all that.
Cautious optimism, right? We don't want to overhype anything. But still, it's hard not to get excited about the potential, especially when you bring in the whole personalized medicine thing. Imagine tailoring mangosteen treatments to each individual person based on their genes and their microbiome.
Absolutely. That's the future, I think. Personalized mangosteen regimens. We
Yeah.
analyze your genes, your gut bacteria, and then bam, we know exactly which mangosteen compounds you need and how much.
That sounds almost like science fiction, but so cool. What are some of the challenges in getting to that point, though? I imagine it's pretty complicated.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a huge undertaking. I mean, we need a ton of data. We have to understand how all those individual variations in our genes, our gut bacteria, how that affects how we respond to mangosteen. It's a massive puzzle, but the payoff could be huge.
Imagine a world where we can prevent diseases before they even start, or treat them with almost no side effects, all thanks to this ancient fruit. It's mind-blowing.
Totally. But as we get caught up in all that, it's important to remember where it all started. Those farmers who've been carefully growing mangosteen for generations, passing down that knowledge, we can't forget them.
Absolutely. Making sure they benefit from the mangosteen success, that's got to be a priority, not just financially, but culturally, too.
100%. Supporting fair trade, making sure the farming practices are sustainable, empowering those local communities, it all matters.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm just struck by how everything's connected. Our bodies, the environment, ancient wisdom, modern science. The mangosteen is like this symbol of it all.
It really is. And it reminds us that even something as simple as a fruit can hold so much knowledge, so much potential, and yeah, a lot of responsibility too. So the next time you see a mangosteen, take a moment to think about its journey, the story it tells, and how your choices as a consumer, they play a part in shaping a healthier, more just, and sustainable world.
It's definitely food for thought. The mangosteen, it's more than just a fruit, right? It's a symbol of that interconnectedness between nature, culture, and our own well-being. Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and stay curious about the wonders all around us.